I want to introduce, this is Samantha. This is my wife, Samantha, right here.
I'd like to introduce my wife. This is my wife, Julia.
Hi. Hey guys, I'm Don Shuri. It's good to see you.
Rich lets his wife speak for her.
Verbally abusive.
What have you guys been talking about?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know. It's not recorded.
We
There's
did
no
not
record.
record it. You'll never know.
Yeah.
See that clock right there? That says that we've been doing 25 minutes of improv. And
Started 25 minutes ago.
It's been pretty amazing.
But did you guys buy anything? How's Nordstrom's?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Not funny.
So you guys want to just jump back in?
Yeah, let's get into this for real now.
okay.
No more joking.
Okay, all right. No more
Yeah,
joking.
let's go serious now. You guys, enough. You know that youth pastor, like the super serious one?
Yeah.
Enough, guys. When are you going to get serious about God? Jeez.
Have you ever snapped? Have you ever snapped in the middle of a sermon?
I did one time.
I did once too.
Painfully regret it.
Yeah, me too.
I told a kid he was talking during my message, and I have ADD, so I couldn't stay focused. The kid was talking the whole time. So finally, in the middle of my message, I look back at this guy and go, "Hey! Hey! You! You! Hey! I'm trying to work up here. You see me go to McDonald's and mess with you while you work?" And worst thing I've ever said to Mike. And interestingly enough, half of the attendants showed up the next week. So,
Brilliant.
and in marriage, same thing applies, guys. Same thing.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. Okay, all right. Let's jump into let's talk about. I don't know how we're gonna go serious now. I don't know how I'm gonna pull this, turn this ship around. Goodness. Okay, let's talk about roles, like ministry roles, because
Right.
marriage and ministry. Let's just start there. It's difficult to balance. So how do you guys balance it in your home,
Balance.
in your relationship life, in your ministry life?
Rich, I feel like this is for you. Balance. Please.
I don't look good? There she goes again.
Verbal abuse. Verbal abuse.
It's so hard. No, I think this is a brilliant question, and this is kind of like, the age-old question. I think this question gets asked quite a bit, and I think first and foremost, marriage is a partnership, and so partnership always begins with agreement. So I think that everything in your marriage has to start with agreement on both ends, that we're both constantly evaluating where we are, where we want to be, who we want to be, and then agreeing on that. And as I was saying earlier, Don and I, we met when we were 17, and who we were at 17 is much different than who we are now at 30. And what you have to be able to do is you have to be flexible and adapt to the seasons that you're in. And so words like balance, that's different in every season. Oftentimes, I think right now, Don Shri and I, this is probably the busiest we've ever been in our entire lives, ever. At the same time, I feel like this is maybe the happiest we've ever been. This is probably maybe the most fulfilled we've ever been. This is the most excited about our marriage. We'll let her comment in a moment. I'm just kidding. That we've ever been. And a lot of our life right now, outside looking in, doesn't look at all balanced. And so I think you have to discover what that is. I think the bigger question is health. And so when you say, well, in order to be healthy, you have to be balanced. Well, that's another topic there. I look at the life of Jesus. Julie and I were talking about this earlier today, and Jesus didn't necessarily live what you call a balanced life, but he lived a healthy life. And if you're healthy, things are going to grow. And so maybe you're saying, but Rich, give me like some practical answers. Well, practically speaking, in your marriage, you need to be having clear conversations. If your wife feels like you're neglecting her, then guess what? You're neglecting her. In your marriage, if your husband feels like you don't respect him, then guess what? You're probably at times not respecting him. You got to come to a place where you're agreeing. And so for Don Shri and I we both travel a lot. We both carry a lot back home in ministry, responsibility-wise. We both have other ventures that we're into. And so I think there's just constantly us coming together and saying, where are we at and where do we want to be? and how do we walk this out really together? Julia.
That's great. I think that I loved what you talked about. There's different seasons. There's seasons in marriage. There's seasons in life. Right now, I'm a mom of 2 small children. And we were at the Hillsong conference, and Brian Houston was talking about seasons in their life. And his wife, Pastor Bobby Houston, when she was a young mom, she decided in her heart that Pastor Brian's fruit was going to be her fruit. Now, her ministry has flourished. Literally, she has a global movement for women that didn't start till later in life. So, ministry is going to ebb and flow, and there's going to be seasons. And I think we've just decided in our marriage, whether it is the season of motherhood or the season of church planning or whatever season it's in, that we're just going to remain soft before the Lord, and we're going to make adjustments where we need to make adjustments, whether that's we need to be more on the same page, or we need to practically make room for more quality time together. Whatever that looks like, we're going to make those adjustments based on our humility before the Lord.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah, I agree with everything that they just said. I think it's so key what Julia was talking about, seasons. And I think you have to ask yourself, what does balance really mean? Because to everyone in this room, you're going to have a different definition based on the way you were raised, for me, you might say, well, I've got to have, 4 nights a week dinner around the dinner table with my family for it to be balanced. Well, to be honest with you, I grew up with 6 kids in my family. My dad's in the ministry. My mom's in the ministry. I never had 1 night a week around the dinner table with my family. And they're my dearest friends. My brothers are my best friend. My sister is my best friend in the world. My parents are my best friends. Every step of the way, I never felt isolated, didn't feel like anything was missing in my life. Every day we had meaningful moments together. But I think if you try to define it and go, for the next 20 years, this is what balance is going to look like, you're going to end up feeling out of balance because your expectations are not being met by what the different seasons are. And I think communication to me is key. Whatever season we're in, as long as we're communicating, our hearts are on the same page, as long as in every season with my children one day that we're communicating, our hearts are on the same page, we're moving together, I think that in itself brings a balance, a peace, and a unity. But for me, the greatest thing in our marriage has been the different voices around us. People who have different stories as far as how they've raised their family, but can give us the wisdom, how they did it with marriage and ministry and working together and enjoying working together and enjoying going home together. People have done it before us, you guys. This isn't the first generation to do it. We can learn a lot from the people that have gone before us. And I think letting those voices into our life, it's really key. Because if you don't, I feel like you get isolated. You think that you're the only one. You're on an island. But we all know we're better when we do it together.
That's awesome.
So coming off that, I have another question for you guys. A lot of you grew up in pastors' homes. Your parents are pastors, and like you just said, people have gone before us. So what would you say that, you learned from your parents watching them in ministry and in marriage and raising a family?
I think the first thing that stands out, and Julie and I were just talking about this, my dad, who I'm like the polar opposite of my father in terms of like personality, and in a lot of areas actually. But one thing I've always really appreciated and really like respected about him, and Julia made mention of this the other day, is like my dad is like, he lives to serve my mom. I'm genuinely like wakes up in the morning as like thinking about her, wants to help her, wants to serve her, and I'm like, dang, how do you do that? So I'm like mad far away from, anyways. But I respected that my dad wasn't just trying to build the church, raise us kids, disciple people, raise up other leaders. My dad, is planting churches all over and travels all the time. But when he's home, my dad is like, he's not just fixated on watching sports and the projects that he's doing, but like he genuinely wants to serve my mom. And I watch him and I'm like, I need to be like that. how do I become like that? I need to be that type of husband. I need to be that kind of friend. I need to get involved and be in tune with what Julia needs, what's going to work for her schedule. Like, I'm just always so challenged by my dad and watching. I always watch that my dad, and even today as a husband, I think, man, I got to be better at that, and that's been such a role model for me.
I think in our home, I was just so thankful, and I think all four of us could say this about our parents, that our parents were just the same off the stage as they were on the stage. And I think that makes all the difference for you not to feel jaded towards church or feel like, this is a show. But the way that they talked to the people at the altar was the same way they would talk to us. The way that they would pray with other people is the same way that they would pray with us. And I think that they brought meaning to, even the shortest conversations. They would just go there. Sometimes we feel like in life that we have to kind of, joke around for a good hour before we can go to the real issue at hand and talk about what's on our heart. But what I really learned from my parents was, even though maybe we didn't have those family dinners all the time, we could be in the car for 5 minutes and my mom would hand me the Bible. She always kept a Bible in the back seat of the car and she'd say, read this verse. And we would go straight into it. We could be in the car for 5 or 10 minutes. It's like, hey, what is that? Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does that mean to you? Dawntree, what is that? What is that? And there would be a real conversation. And she would want to know my thoughts. It wasn't just her just like regurgitating things and making me listen. It was a conversation that taught me that you can take just a couple minutes in life, in your day, and you can make them really count, and that you can really connect. And I think that really made a huge impact in my life, because it made it not about the services, but it just made it about the journey that we were doing together.
For me, my parents were, passion is really, really attractive. And I just always remember my parents being consumed in the best of ways with what we were doing. Not consumed in the ways of being stressed, frustrated, angry, complaining, but being consumed with, they were laughing. There was people around whose lives were being impacted. There were stories. There was testimonies. And I just think that, passion is always, always attractive. My dad, I grew up in a house till I was 14 years of age that literally from 0 to 14, my dad was gone 5 nights out of the week. He was a traveling itinerant preacher. This was kind of in the 80s and the 90s, when kind of the rhythm back then in church life was my dad would fly out early on Saturday mornings, like at 5 a.m., land in a city. He'd come here to Providence and he'd preach Sunday morning services in Providence. Then he would hold a 4-night crusade. So he'd do a Sunday night service. Then Monday morning he'd be in the public schools all day, going to every public school, doing youth rallies, then having Monday night services, Tuesday be in the public schools all day, speaking to, just to public school students, having a Tuesday night service, Wednesday all day, then Wednesday night back in church. Then he'd fly home Thursday, so he'd get home around 4 o'clock on Thursday from wherever he was at. We were in the Pacific Northwest. We'd see him Thursday night for dinner. We'd all do something Friday. He was gone again on Saturday. That was our rhythm for 14 years. But the crazy thing about it as a kid is I always felt like my dad was super engaged with my life. I always felt like my dad was super supportive of what I was doing. He always put the right people around me. And I just never really remember having a feeling of being bitter towards God or angry at the church. I had my season of rebelling on my own thing, but it had nothing to do with my parents. And so when you say, what is it that was instilled for me, I just think, I was talking to someone the other day, there's 2 types of ways of doing ministry, let's be honest. I'm a big Miami Heat fan. I don't know who you like as a sports team, but there's one way of going, if I want to make you a Miami Heat fan, I could say, all right, you're going to come over to my house. And for the next 10 weeks, I'm going to teach you about Miami Heat. I'm going to tell you the history of the Miami Heat. I'm going to tell you about AAA Arena, how it was built, when it was constructed. I'm going to tell you about the coaching staff, Pat Riley, he's a genius, Alonzo Mourning, Harold Miner, Baby Jordan, they used to call him. I'm going to talk about the good years with, I Got Skills, Tim Hardaway. I'm going to go into our championship days, Dwayne Wade, Shaquille O'Neal. We actually had LeBron King James, arguably one of the greatest NBA players of all time. He played with us for 4 years. They went to the championship 4 different times. He could have won it. It's crazy. And maybe after 10 weeks you might go, oh man, you know what? I'm going to be a Miami Heat fan. That's one way. The second way is, let's go to a Miami Heat game, Game 7, when they're playing against the Indiana Pacers. LeBron James has got the ball in his hand, and you watch as everybody loses their ever-loving mind in that place. You might not understand all of it, but you go, oh my goodness, I want to be a part of this. By the way, that's 2 different philosophies of how to do church right there. My philosophy is like, hey, why don't you just come into church and see that we are so consumed with what we're talking about. We're so passionate about this. We worship loud. We preach loud. We're excited. People come in going, I don't really know what's going on, but I want to be a part of it. And that's the way my parents always did ministry. That's how they did life. And I found myself going, wow, I want to be a part of that whole thing. So I think for the parents in this place, I'm not a parent yet, but I would challenge you, be very, very careful with how much you're complaining, with how bad your body language looks after coming home from being at church. Be very careful how you talk about leadership at your church, people under you, people over you. All of that stuff is picked up in the next generation that they carry with them. Come home with a smile on your face. Come home telling about the good that happened that night. Maybe you didn't have the attendance you wanted, but somebody's life was impacted because they showed up. Report the good news. Exploit the good. Enjoy the journey, and watch as your kids and watch as your family, I really believe, follows Jesus. Amen. I mean, I just feel like I'm ready to preach tonight. Let's go. Let's go. I was telling them, babe, before we go to services, how I can't be around you for about an hour just because you, at times, just sever the anointing. It just, because I was telling them how we stay in separate hotel rooms just because the night before. No, because I need that. I just got to be me and Jesus, and I just feel like you block. Kidding, I've never done that. She helps me find the anointing. We worship together. I told them that you verbally abused me. She doesn't. Yeah, we're just playing with you. We love you.
When you guys weren't here,
Hey.
when the girls weren't here, it got weird.
It was
We're not
weird
gonna lie,
for
it got
22
weird.
minutes.
Yeah, it got weird. Yeah.
You cut the tapes though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Those things are going to be burned.
You cut the tapes.
Yeah, those tapes are going to be burned.
Samantha, he told us that your guys' biggest fight happened 3 weeks ago while you were giving birth.
When I
Like
when I
in the
left for
midst
too
of-
long, right in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I'll tell you, it's totally true.
Full
not even a
circle,
preacher
people.
story.
Full circle. So this will be my last year at Awakening. It's been an honor and a privilege serving this great community.
Oh man, that was foolish.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch.
So let's move on to another question.
Yeah.
You guys have talked about, Chad and Rich, I've heard it from you guys, about the whole concept of better at 70. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about what that is, what it means, and kind of how it's come about?
Yeah, really, we got the idea. I think it was, I'm not the originator of it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one of our friends is, I don't even know if he wants, if I can say who it is, but someone came up with this phrase, we began to use it. But really, we've looked at, a lot of the dads that, Rich's dad, Julia's father, Don Cherie's dad, and looked at and saying, these guys are getting better as they age. And hopefully for us, we're never going to look back and go, man, when we were 30, whoa, we were catching barracudas.
Inside jokes that
Inside
you girls
jokes,
missed.
you guys
Yeah, you
missed
guys don't
it.
know.
You guys were
Nordstrom,
shopping, you guys were
is
shopping.
yearly sale,
Shopping.
whatever.
Making the people wait.
Starbucks, anyways. But, hopefully at 70, we'll be in our best years. You see people as they get older, they get weirder. Or when they get older, they get ornery or cranky, and they don't get sweeter. And for us, Julie and I, we talked about this. I know Rich and Dawn Street the same. A lot of our friends just talking about when we're older, we want to be in our best years. And I think our kids, it's amazing when you're a parent, you get to coach your kids. Like, no, they don't have no say. Like, you're going to coach them. You're going to tell them what to do, what not to do, when to sit on the bench, when to play. You're going to coach your kids. But as you get older, it's your kids' now opportunity to either beckon you to be a consultant, because you can't be a coach no more. And for me, when I'm 7 years old, I hope my kids want to be around me. I hope young people want to be around me. I hope my friends want to be around me, because I'm living my best years at 70. So for us, we're not looking at these years as like, oh, man, this is awesome. We're hopefully building towards a future, and not just a legacy, but, the future of how we're going to live our lives and who we're going to be as people. So,
I personally can't wait till Chad ages. He's going to look like George Clooney.
Cannot deny myself.
That salt and pepper will get me. Just kidding. This is why we have kids. We just... you know, you're young and you get married and there's a lot of love and passion and you say your vows and, you know, in life there is a lot of for better and for worse. And I'm pregnant, so I have emotions. I'm so sorry. You know, we've walked through some stuff and I don't know where this is coming from. I'm in my second trimester. But I can say without a shadow of a doubt that God has been so faithful. And Chad says this, and I know this from the bottom of my heart, if you don't quit, you win. And when we're 70, we're going to have each other and our children, and I want to have a lot of friends around us. Because from now until 70, there's still going to be betters and there's still going to be worses. And if I just hold on to one simple thing that I've already know, that God has shown himself faithful time and time again, that he who has started the work is going to be faithful to complete it. And if we just don't quit, we get one marriage, we get one family, and that if we just make it to the end, life is just going to be so sweet at the end.
Beautiful, I love it.
I'm sorry.
It was amazing. Unbelievable. Rich, do you want to talk about that a little bit, or do you want me to move on?
Well,
Do you not take my wife serious?
no, I do.
Wait, my wife just poured her heart out,
do.
bro. Do you not take my wife serious? Are you for
I don't
real?
know how to. Yeah. Well,
Like that? Like
it's like my first Miami Heat basketball game. I'm so hot, babe. Babe, I'm hot.
every
Okay.
conference, Why do you do this?
I'm just warm.
We're not in
I'm
the
so
hotel
warm.
room.
I'm so warm. And
It's not okay.
you know, listen. Better at 70. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the goal, man.
That's good.
Just trying to be my best I can at 31, and I think I think the way that grace works, honestly, is that it's grace upon grace, and literally I think that we should be getting better. And I think one of the most beautiful things, and most of us I think in this room would already have caught this revelation, but the closer you get to Jesus, the more you realize just how far away you were to begin with. And I think that's what life is, The more and more I'm married, the more and more I go, man, I really did not know anything about marriage. And it makes you thankful. And I think as we get thankful, you get joyful. And as you get joyful, according to Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10, you get strong. And so I think everything that Chad's saying and everything that Julia's saying is that as we get older, hopefully gratitude is, swelling up in our hearts more and more. And hopefully the joys come out of us that we're stronger. We're better in our older years. And the Bible says that we serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so you see a God of generations, that every season of life, you have a role, you have a purpose. If you've got a pulse, you've got a purpose. And I just want to make sure that in every season that I lean into that season. Life is about transitions. And I remember my older brother, he got a motorcycle, Harley Davidson, and my older brother is one of those kind of guys. Anyone like me, like you get into hobbies like really strong, and then like you do it for like 2 months, then you quit. That's me at least. Addictive personality. Snapchat. Follow me at Rich Wilkerson Jr. But my older brother, he got this Harley Davidson, and he's a major hobby guy, and he wanted me to get one, but like I was like, no, bro, I could come up with better ways to die, And so I didn't get one, but he has a beautiful wife named Ashley, and she's a blonde, and she looks kind of like Dawn Cherie. And I remember she would ride on the back, and I said, bro, I'm just too afraid, to ride a motorcycle. And he said, bro, it's easy. I said, well, what's the scariest, when have you been the most scared of the motorcycle? He said, well, sometimes when Ashley rides in the back, he goes, one of the scary things about her riding on the back is that when you're riding and when you're driving, when you take a turn, if Ashley doesn't lean into the turn with me, we're in a moment there where the bike could go down. And so as we make the turn, she's got to lean into the turn with me in order for us to make it. And I believe it's a picture of relationships, but it's a picture of life. That in the transitions, what a lot of people do is they don't lean into the transition. And instead of not leaning in and saying, I don't want to go into this next season. I don't want to go into my 30s. I don't want to go into my 40s. I don't want to go into my 50s. I don't want to go from being whatever, an intern to a youth pastor, to wherever your life takes you. We hold back, and in that transition, we find ourselves falling oftentimes. And I just want to be a person that leans into the transitions. If it's for me, just tell them I'll call them back. And I just want to be a person that leans into my transitions in our seasons. I think Don and I have talked about that a whole lot in our marriage together, flowing, leaning into it. And it's definitely our goal that as we age and as we grow, that life gets better and we really get better. You have thoughts, Turtleneck?
Hello. I like the cold weather here. It's awesome. This is really cold to me, by the way. Really, really cold. Yeah, but you got to keep your hat on, babe, because your hair is jacked up.
Verbal.
We've been together 13 years. No, the only thing I wanted to add on to that is just the way that I view all the, it's okay, you can take it off. I don't want you to sweat. Take it off. It's okay, babe. You look great. I love it. You're so handsome. I love it. Crazy about this guy. Would you stop? What I wanted to add to everything everybody shared is just, I feel like for us to be better at 70, we really have to focus on the seeds we're sowing in this season, not just the harvest at hand. And I think so often we can just get, focused on what's going on now. And if you're not careful, you can stop the growth by stopping sowing the seeds. And I think that applies to every area of our life, right? I mean, Jesus uses that example so many times. So in application to our marriage, it's like, I know that God has blessed our marriage over the last 9 years. There have been highs and there have been lows. There have been hard times and there have been wonderful times. And right now it's a wonderful season that Rich was saying, in the middle of taking this leap of faith, the planting a church and everything, in the middle of it, God has brought this joy in our marriage, but you can't just enjoy it. We have to continue to plant those seeds, right? And how do you do that? Like, it matters every day for us to express gratitude to each other. Those are seeds you sow that grow, continuing to not hold back your honor and your respect for one another. Continuing to grow in your education, continuing to grow in your vision, continuing to grow in your faith. These are all seeds that we may not see them right now, but in order for us to be better at 70 and have a harvest and be more fruitful than ever before, it's going to take a lot of seeds being sown, right? So I think the challenge right now with all of us, if that's what we have ahead of us, is not just what's going on right now, but God, what am I sowing into for the future? With my faith, with my generosity, with my prayer life, with my devotion to you. This is what it all comes down to, I really believe.
I just think it's so amazing that you guys are even thinking about this concept. The first time you mentioned better at 70, it rocked my world because I've never thought about 70. And the fact that you guys are thinking about it, you're planning for it, you're actively working towards it, because in a generation that has mega ministries but a lot of failed marriages, I think it's pretty awesome that you guys are determining to have both succeed. And I think it's an awesome example for us. And I think it's an example the generation needs. Coming out of the 80s and 90s, we need some pastors that can have some amazing ministries and have amazing marriages all the way to the end. And so I'm grateful that you guys are doing that. You have a question, Bill?
So this one's probably more for the girls. So in the Bible, it talks about being the helper. So how have you guys practically, girls, found ways to be the helper in your marriage?
Well, I think that one of the blessings of marriage, first of all, marriage is such a blessing because as different as you are, it's such a gift from God to have somebody to walk through life with. Like, it's just such a wonderful thing. And, Rich is my best friend in the world. Like, he is. More than anybody in my life, he is a faith speaker over my life. He is an encourager to me, And I think that helping, for me, it's like marriage often is, at least in our relationship, I can only talk from my experience, but when Rich is down and he's discouraged, I have the opportunity to step in there and be the person who lifts his head and goes, we can do this. Like, I have the opportunity, if I want to jump on the wagon of discouragement. Every wife does, to go, okay, you're frustrated with that. Well, I'm going to get frustrated too, and I'm just going to stir the pot, and I'm going to get you even more angry, and we're going to get more discouraged because you're there, so I'm going to go there. Or you can actually help and bring a positive perspective, and encouragement, and bring us back. I feel like marriage is like when I'm weak, Rich steps in there and he is my encourager, and we balance the scales. And when he's weak, I step in there. But I think where real discouragement happens and where people get in a pit in their marriage and in their outlook on life and get jaded with their bosses and get jaded with ministry is when one person is down and the other person, instead of pulling them out of the pit, jumps into the pit with them. It doesn't help anything. And so what I've learned in my marriage is that I don't help him by being condescending, like, oh, you need to have a better outlook. I help him by just getting in there beside him and speaking life, trying to, talk it through. So often he doesn't need me to even point out the solution, but he needs to be heard. And I don't have to jump on the wagon, but he needs to be heard. And I'm listening, and then I'm speaking life. And the same thing for him. That, I feel like that is the greatest gift in marriage, getting the opportunity to speak life over each other.
So good. I think it's very apparent that one of Chad's greatest strengths is his ability to be joyful. And he really carries our home with such joy and positivity. And he leads us in every circumstance, in every upward battle with a statement of faith. And he truly is the definition of an eternal optimist. He confesses to himself that he's going to choose joy, and he's going to choose hope, and he's going to choose faith in every circumstance on a daily basis, I can say without a doubt. And so in that situation, it's very easy because Chad's, for the most part, low maintenance. And it's easy for me to be complacent as a helpmate. And I have to challenge myself to be really intentional. And that's a word that we try to use as you get further along in marriage, that your intentionality gets very complacent. But if I'm very intentional with showing him love and helping him in new and creative ways, in ways that I know that he loves to receive love, I know that goes so far. But when someone that's happy and together and low maintenance all the time, I'm like, oh, he's good, maybe I can wave my white flag and he can help me. And I'm like, no, it is just like what Dawn Cherie's saying. You have to both help each other. And Chad's phenomenal at, saying, what do you need? And I too, have learned how he's led me to try and be intentional with new ways of how to help him. I think women are just natural servers for the most part. We love to help. We love to take care of things. We love to fix things. We love to help in any way possible. But I think it's easy in your help to become resentful in your heart if you're not if your heart's not in the right place. And I think guarding my heart towards Chad and being like my help for him, my intentionality to help him in any way possible is coming out of a place of a right heart, not out of a place of obligation, makes the help more fun.
That's awesome. For the guys, could you maybe talk one practical thing that you do to kind of love and support and protect your wife?
Well, Rich and I recently started to hunt.
Hence the orange hat.
Fish,
Eat everything I catch.
cod, I'm into salmon, bass, trout.
What did you catch the other day?
You know, the cudas, barracudas. You guys are so serious. Say the question again.
What's one?
Oh, let me ask it.
Okay, you ask it.
What are practical ways that you serve and help me?
Well,
That was a better question.
so glad that you asked. Recently, I've been struggling with. No, I'm kidding. The other day, someone asked her the other day, how many diapers a week does Chad change? And I was like, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Practically, I don't know. You gotta understand, in our house, the way every house is different. The way that our house works is like Julia runs everything. Like she runs our church. She runs all my travel. She runs our house. She runs our bills. She runs our taxes. I mean, she does everything. When I wake up in the morning, she is downstairs and there is hot coffee with the cream set next to it. And I'm going to get scrambled eggs with avocado and some Cholula sauce after it. Like, she is queen. Can you please put your hands together for my amazing wife that does it all? I don't know how she does it. I do not know. Like, I do nothing. I smile. I post photos on Instagram. I use filters. I Snapchat, and I leave the house for long periods of time. Whatever. But how do I support my family besides financially? Right?
It's a great question for you, Chad.
Yeah, this is a great question. So I'm trying to search for something. I'm just trying to search for something. No. I think, Julia made mention of that question, but I'm always asking her, like, what can I do? How can I help? Like, if I'm coming home, I know she's had our 2 kids. We have a phenomenal team that helps us out, no question, and we are so thankful for the people in our world. But, like, I'm always thinking, like, how can I help? What does Julia need? A break, a gift, whatever, a trip. I'm always just trying to lean into her world because I think the saying in leadership in youth ministry helped me, like when I started leading leaders, you work hard for the people that work hard for you. And I think in marriage, that's really always I've tried to keep that attitude. Like, I don't know anybody that serves me more, helps me more, leans into my world more, is more familiar with my needs than my wife. And out of that gratitude, I always just try and be like, what can I do? Like, let me take my son, who is an animal, for the next 4 hours to the park and to buy him, an ice cream cone or something so you can get a break or, whatever. I just think it's not so much about evening the scales or, as we would use the word balance, which obviously you can tell through the nuance of it, we hate the word balance. It's not a balance. Is it fair that Julia has this role and I have that? We never look at it that way. What we look at is like, how can I help you? And vice versa. And I think that's where the rhythm comes. And we can be in rhythm and not be in the same city. And thank God for FaceTime. Thank God for a text message. This is my best friend, and we talk all day, every day, no matter where we're at. And I think that the real solution is just practically looking for ways to make the other person's world better. I know she's always doing that for me, and I'm always trying to do that for her. Rich.
It's a great answer, bro. I think the difference between dating someone and marrying someone is that when you date someone, you want to hear about their dreams, and you want to support their dreams. But I think when you marry someone, you don't just want to support their dreams, but rather their dreams become part of your reality. And so I feel like as a husband, it's not just about us accomplishing my dream, but it's going, what are the dreams inside of your heart, Don Cherie? Because it's now my job to help make those things come to pass. And so I feel like my role in how I serve our family, which right now is just the two of us. But I feel like, Don Cherie and I, we have different gifts. And I think as we're getting older, we're discovering that. And I think we were talking earlier before you guys got in here about like some of our worst fights and whatnot, which was fun. And it was a good conversation. But I think a lot of our fights, and even in the past couple of years but we're getting, I think, farther away from is just the respect of who each other are. Right. And Don Cherie and I are very, very different, yet we work really well together. And I think what we're getting better at together is understanding each other and understanding the strength of who we are, and then hopefully each one of us making up for the other person's weakness. And so I think part of my strength practically of how I serve Don Cherie is that, there's always a macro and a micro vision type thing, right? I think my job is the macro vision. I'm always going to go, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is who we're going to do it with. Don Cherie is like unbelievable. Yesterday we're in the middle of this calendar meeting, and like it's like heavy and it's heated, and I'm like, and we're going to, and then Don Cherie's like, hey, can I say something? And I'm like, and everyone's like, yeah. And she's like, Don Cherie's like, I feel like the people on the second floor, we have renters on our church that rent some facilities and they do foster care. She goes, I really feel like this year we need to do a better job at individually meeting them and doing care packages for all of the foster parents and the families. And I'm like, that's really good. Like I would never, I'm thinking like she's going to the person. And I just feel like she always does that. I think my strength though for us is trying to keep us big picture wise. I think there's a lot of incredible things on the inside of Don Cherie, yet Don Cherie at times is so humble and is always going to be the last one to put her hand up for something. And I think part of my life is to I kind of break down walls. It's just kind of who I am. I'm a bulldozer coming through and like, hey, we're going to do this. And Don Cherie's been amazing to follow me past the broken wall, help kind of put it back together, and then turn it into a nurturing environment. And so I think us figuring out that rhythm together with our city of serving people, it's been a really fun combination. Wow. And so I think the way that I serve her is I try to challenge her in areas that maybe I think there's great gifting there, but she maybe wouldn't take the step of faith, not because she's even afraid, but just because there's not someone pushing. And so a lot of my job is just to, I think, push her out of the nest a little bit. And then I think a lot of her job for me is, helping kind of build the nest for us a little bit. So, I feel like right now I know the dreams that are in her heart, and those dreams matter to me just as much as my dreams matter to me. So I'm committed to her a whole lot. I love you.
It's beautiful. It's good. Very nice.
It got weird.
You're the best, Dad.
I love you, man.
You're the best.
I would say this about Chad Veach, by the way, because Chad is in many ways very, very similar. Honestly, we always kind of joke, these are some of our best friends in all the world, if you haven't been able to tell, and we've spent a lot of time with them, and there's a whole lot of accountability between the four of us within our marriages, which I think is really healthy. I don't think that you should go confess all your stuff to everybody, but you should have some people that you trust that know the good, the bad, and the ugly, and still say, man, we really love you. And Chad, like Don Cherie, was never going to put up his hand and say, well, this is what I do good. But Chad Veach, in their marriage, by far, that I am always inspired by, is that, I've got some pretty good messages on faith, and I can preach them till I'm blue in the face. I get some people excited in this room. But man, I've never been encouraged more than ever by this man's faith and the way that he leads his family and what he really, really does as a family man, as a husband. And I just think when we're talking about practically for them, I think that Julia's carried so much at times, and I think that Chad continues to be a breath of fresh air, which is what she was talking about. And this is one of the best couples you'll ever meet. And so I think get some good couples in your life that you can go, man, they're really good at that, and they can inspire you. And that's what they've done for us all the time. So
That's
man,
awesome.
and then Jordan,
Then there's Jordan.
One thing, and I'm just learning this recently, but one thing that I've noticed with our this is a 3-week-old point, so it's not fully developed here. But
I love that.
one thing I've learned in the last 3 weeks is maybe Samantha doesn't need to hear everything about the ministry. You know, every single thing about our youth ministry, every single thing I told this 15-year-old kid at Chipotle because he's being an idiot, and then, you know, the meeting I had afterwards, and then, you know, the thing that went wrong with worship. So I'm trying to protect her as much as I can and take some of that brunt. I'll take the hits in the ministry. You know, if someone needs to have a meeting, come see me. You know, if someone has a bad attitude, I'll go and I'll talk to him, you know. And trying to protect her a little bit from the unnecessary thing, because what you were saying is true for Dawntree, is true about Samantha too. She's so individual and so kind. I don't want to turn her into a bulldozer. I'll be the bulldozer, you know, and I want to be able to protect that in her. And that's been kind of hard because I want to say everything about the ministry at all times, all the difficult things, all the problems solved, all the great things that happen. But sometimes it becomes too much.
Absolutely. I mean, and we can't believe we haven't taken time on this, and we need to take 3 minutes, and everyone should make comments on this. But raise your hand if you are single in the room for a moment. Okay, awesome. Single and in ministry. Look at that. Let me just say a couple things about this. There's a thing called collateral damage, and especially the men in this room and the women in this room, you know, marriage is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. So you got to choose wisely. And get into this thing called ministry, you better find somebody else. I'm not saying they have to be playing the piano or singing the song or preaching with you, but they have got to be heart and soul in it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And I'll tell you the number one thing that I've seen guys on our team, our staff, on our team right now that holds them back from really fulfilling all that I think they were put on this earth to do ministry-wise is a spouse that's not fully committed to that vision. And the truth is that God's called me to some things. God's called Dawn Shree some stuff. God's called Chad Beats. God's called Julia. But man, if Dawn Shree does not celebrate the calling on my life, then I'm never released to be what God's called me to be. And so, you know, one of the big questions people ask me is, man, Rich, you must be unhealthy because you travel too much, da-da-da-da-da-da. I always smile and go, oh, man, we don't know how we do it. Thanks, man. Oh, yeah, God's good. But the reality of it is that I'm not listening to the voice that I get from somebody else. I'm listening to her voice. And her voice is saying, go. Her voice is saying, I'm with you. Her voice is saying, I support this. There's been times when she's told me not to go. And guess what? We've canceled things, and we're where we need to be at. And it's not just about it's about life, you know? And I just think the most beautiful thing about me getting to be who I am is because I've got a partner who supports and celebrates who I am. And the reason why Dawn Shrie's becoming who she is and is on the journey is because she's got a husband who supports and champions that. And so many people in ministry, I could talk about it till I'm blue in the face. It just makes me sad. Like they don't make a practical choice. Like choosing a partner should 100% there should be feelings, but it should also, I hate to say this, it should be a good decision. Like it should be a good decision. Like we're just so in love. Not a good enough decision, okay? Like he just makes me feel some kind of way. Not a good enough reason, okay? Because one day you're going to be 70 and that thing that got you at 21 will probably not be the same thing that's going to keep you at 70. It's got to be something deeper than that. It's got to be a calling that's grafted together. And I don't know, I just have a real burden for that. You know, I'm looking right now, we were talking about today on our team, we're planting a church right now. And I got some people on the team that I can see it, man. They're anointed, they're called, they're graced, but they've already yoked up to a partner that doesn't have the same calling, that doesn't support their calling, is a better way of saying it. And it's holding them back. And I don't know, Dawn Shree and I kind of said, we're going to go into this thing called ministry, and this is what we're going to do. And we're selling out to this whole thing. It's not about money. It's not about popularity. It's never been about how much influence we can gain. It's about we feel called to build the local church. And we've been doing that full on for the last 7 years. And God has brought more than we could ever imagine in our wildest dreams. But it's still, someone the other day was going, man, so what's your thought? I'm like, it's still the same thing. We are still sold out to the exact same vision that we're going to build God's house. And we believe as we build God's house, God builds our house. And I would just challenge you, those of you that are single, man, like choose wisely because it's important. Dawn Shree wants to say some stuff.
Yeah, I think this is, I saw how many people in this room are single. I really think this is so important to talk about. And you really can't mince words because all of us on this stage, we've had people come into our office and say, hey, I'm getting married to so-and-so. And you're like, what? I didn't know you were even at that point. It's like, if you're a leader and you're in this room, you have a responsibility to be accountable to your leadership as you make the second most important decision in your life. Like, when I tell you, don't, please, like, it's not for our good, it's for your life. Like, don't make a decision of who you're going to marry on your own. Please don't listen to the voices around you that you trust. Listen to your leaders. Bring people into your relationship before you get married. Because what I see people do all the time is they don't let people into their relationship until after they decided to get married, and now they have all these issues, and the issue now is you have to make this thing work. Like, you've committed forever. Whereas if you would have had some meetings before you said I do with people who love you, who are further down the road, who care about you, who could say, hey, there's some red flags here. You need to work on this. We're not going to move forward until you guys have, this isn't like this crazy, we rule every part of your life. No, this is just, that's what discipleship is, being open. And I just want to encourage, it might be one person in this room that needs to hear this. Before you say I do, please let the leadership in your life get counseling. Our generation is way past the generation before us that thought that counseling was, tainted your image or made you weak. No, it makes you strong. The Bible is very clear about the wisdom that comes with the right counsel around you. You need to choose who you marry with the voices that you trust around you going, this is blessed. We are behind you. You can trust them. Please, 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 because besides Jesus, it's the most important decision of your life.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it was interesting when we were getting ready to leave. Julia, you were in the lobby, about to leave the hotel, and Levi Lusko was there. And I don't know, I can't remember the way you phrased it, but like, hey, we're doing a marriage panel. What's some marriage advice? And he said, well, the advice starts with who you marry. That you have to marry well. And I think what you guys have said so so eloquently. I think. I remember this one guy, the president of our Bible college, he used to say, I don't even care if you marry a Christian. Like, it doesn't even matter if they believe in God. Just marry somebody that loves life. And I used to laugh at that, but it's so true that you got to marry someone that loves life, is going to love you,
Brilliant.
And we hope, in addition, loves God.
Yeah.
But, marry well. And all of us are here and enjoying this great conference because we married well. And all of our lives are really blessed, not because of how much money we make or not because of a platform size, but because of our home and our marriage.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I just think what Chad's saying, because it's just like, just because someone's a Christian doesn't mean they're a candidate.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculous, So do a little bit better study on the context of what you're reading. Unequally yoked doesn't, I guess we're equally yoked. We're both Christians. What? No. There's a whole lot more to marriage than do you confess the name of Jesus Christ? And I think that's just what you're saying. And so we missed a bit of this, and we probably should have gotten into this because this is critical. And
like you were saying about your parents, passion is attractive. Yeah. And when you're looking at someone that has the gift of God in them, that is attractive as well. And their passion for ministry can be attractive. The passion can also be deceiving. And that gift might not be sustainable if their character is not in line with that. So what is sustainable is the heart and the character of the person. So, maybe they look glamorous on stage or they have a gift. There's a lot of gifted people. And there's a lot of good people as well. But I agree with everything you're saying. But back to what you were saying, I think Samantha is not only kind, she's beautiful, has flawless hair, and makes beautiful babies, and I think that they should make more. Yes. But I think protecting your spouse from things or, being, in essence, the protector or the bully from things that might come against and protecting her from some of those negative things. I think we also have to protect ourselves. It's really easy for us to find fulfillment in speculating, venting, talking out loud through things, especially in ministry. And we have to be careful, even if we leave a meeting, that our time, even as a couple, when we're in the car, when we're laying in bed talking at night, which ends up being ministry a lot, that we have to protect that we can't even let ourselves speculate to let it even get out from our heart to our mouth to each other. Because we can start feeding ourselves negative things that stir in us, and Chad's amazing at shutting me down. And if I start having something that's festering within me and I want to talk to him, because women like to talk through these things, he'll just say, I don't agree with that. And he's not going to be my comrade in something that's not right. And I think that before we even get it out of our mouth and want to put it into the heart of someone else, which is such a concept that should never be thought of, that we should protect it from even coming out and relinquish that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, your youth are exiting the sanctuary now, so we're going to end here, and we're going to pray, and we're going to release. God, I pray that you seal all the words that were spoken. I pray, God, that all the wisdom sinks deep into our minds and our hearts, God. God, that our marriages are awesome, they're powerful, they're anointed, and they're examples. They're the greatest sermon we ever preach. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Love you guys. See you tonight.